Have you ever felt trapped on a path through life that you feel you never consciously decided to take, unfulfilled by your daily work and without an outlet for your creativity? I have, but I decided to change that, and so can you. Welcome to the Apparel Life. Hi. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Chris, and in 2022 I launched my own clothing brand in the UK. Velokind is a sustainable cycling apparel brand inspired by the freedom of riding. I've created this channel to connect and inspire fellow entrepreneurs along their own journeys to create successful clothing brands. It's intended to be a safe space where we can come together and exchange ideas without judgment in order that we can grow together. It's a place where curiosity is encouraged and ideas are exchanged. I'm not pretending to have all the answers by any means. I've had some successes over the last 12 months, but also made plenty of mistakes as well. These videos are just really intended to be a place for me to share my authentic reflections on life as a clothing brand entrepreneur. It's easy to get carried away on a path through life without making a conscious decision on the direction that you're taking. It's almost like following the path of least resistance. You can find yourself in your comfort zone, afraid to try new things. This is where I was until I began to self-reflect and become more aware of how the decisions that I'd taken recently, or perhaps more importantly the decisions that I'd not taken, had led me to the position that I was in. And I became aware and realised that there was an alternative way of living, an alternative way of making a living. But in order to be successful in that, I was going to have to take some significant risks. I was going to have to push myself outside of my comfort zone and risk failure and put myself in that vulnerable position. So when the opportunity presented itself, having worked in a corporate career for 20 years, I took redundancy and at that point made a commitment to myself that I would begin the long journey towards building a more autonomous way of living, to build a life for myself for the next 20, 30, 40 years, however long I've got left, to build a life which is fulfilling beyond that which I have with my wife and family. And that's the moment that Velokind became more than an idea in my head. For the 3 or 4 years prior to making that decision, though, I'd spent countless hours on the internet, absorbing as much content as I could around screen printing and the apparel business, in order that when I did build up the confidence to take that decision, that I would be as well placed as I possibly could. And whilst I'd acquired a few bits of used screen printing equipment along the way, it had never gone much more beyond a romanced idea in my head. This was the moment that I committed to making it a reality. It was also a critical moment when, for the first time in my life, I'd actually embraced a future of uncertainty. It was the first time in my life outside my relationship with my wife and children that I would genuinely felt that I was living as my full self. Something that I'd always struggled to do during my 20 years working in the corporate career. And I think that's something that comes with age, and probably comes to different people at different times in their life. But that this is when it came to me, when I made that commitment to doing something for myself. And you know what, it felt really, really good. Despite the risk that was involved, I was hugely excited by it and just exhilarated by the opportunity of creating something out of nothing. And it's not happened overnight. I've got lots more to do, but ultimately I've started that journey now, and there's no going back. Such is my belief, which is a great feeling. So with all that said, what's my advice to you if you're thinking about starting your own clothing brand? Well, I can only speak about it from my own experience, but based upon what I've learned so far, the first thing that I would encourage you to think about is, what is motivating you? Personally, for me, it was a combination of factors. From my early 20s, I'd always wanted to own my own business of some sort, but I'd never made moves towards doing that for one reason or another. I think, like many people, I found myself caught up in the traditional education system working hard through secondary school, going on to university, getting a good job, progressing through that job, you know, and you earn more, you want more, you spend more, the more you earn, the more you spend, and you end up in that cycle. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want and you're happy with that. I'm not arguing against that if that's what people choose to do. But there is an alternative, and I think for me, the realization came that true fulfillment would only come through having absolute independence of my own time and my own finances. And that was what I wanted to achieve through setting up Velokind. What was also important for me, though, was having a creative outlet. I wanted to create something that I had for myself. It wasn't just a case of finding a product that I could buy and sell easily and make good margin on it. In many ways, that would have been an easier path to take. But part of what I've decided to do is around having control of the production process myself, and having that creative outlet. In fact, the more I absorb myself in this life, the more I believe there is the potential for everybody to create. And I think it can be of huge benefit for people to do that. I think to create something out of nothing is a hugely courageous endeavour, and something that should be encouraged in everybody, from children, you know, all the way through life. More specifically for me, when I really distilled it, it came down to one word: freedom. And I put that word at the heart of the Velokind brand concept, which is to inspire fellow cyclists to discover freedom on and beyond the road. And by doing that was essentially aligning my own purpose with that of the brand. So I would really encourage you early on in the development phase of your brand to consider long and hard about what your key motivating force is. Perhaps even write it down, maybe something that's worth revisiting over time, because it could change a little bit, but if nothing else, it's useful to have that written down and crystallized in your own mind, because you will need to call on that as a motivating force during the darker times that will inevitably come. There will be difficult times when you question what you've started. People around you will also question what you've started because they don't understand what you've started. They want to protect you from the risk that you've taken, and you can understand that to a point. So you need to have that real understanding of what's at the heart of the decision that you've taken, because you will need to call on it. I know that I certainly have. Whatever the motivation is for your clothing brand, I'd love to know what it is. So drop me a note in the comments below and I'll reply to those later. Likewise, if you're enjoying the video up until this point, it'd be really useful if you could like and subscribe. It'd be a good indicator for me as to whether or not this is the kind of content that you find interesting and useful. Thanks a lot. If you've listened to that and thought, you know what, Chris, I'm absolutely clear on what my motivating force is, then that's brilliant. Let me know, as I say, in the comments below what it is. I'd love to hear. If you've listened to that and thought, yeah, I'm up for this, I perhaps need to consider that a little bit longer, but I'm up for the process, then the next thing to consider is what to expect. This is a huge topic, and one that I will probably find difficult to cover in a single video alone. But what I want to do over the next couple of minutes is give you an insight into what I've experienced and how I've felt over the last 12 months or so of being a business founder, clothing brand entrepreneur and screen printer. In all honesty, it's been an absolute roller coaster of emotions. I mean, I've really not made it easy for myself by choosing to manage all the production of my clothing brand myself. I do all the screen printing myself, and as I've discovered over recent months, screen printing is very much both an art and a science. There have been times when I've absolutely loved it, and there have been times when I've been tearing my hair out down in that studio, not able to get prints right. But it's given me what I want. It's given me that creative outlet. It's also given me absolute control of production. And in the long run, what that I hope will do is give me the flexibility and agility to launch products quickly, and also, once scaled, allow me to take a bigger proportion of the margin. When I really think about what I've experienced over the last 12 months, the overriding feeling is one of fulfillment, which is ultimately why I set out to do what I'm doing. Receiving sales, new sales from new customers you've never heard of or never met before is an amazing feeling, and for those customers to then share positive feedback is brilliant, and then for them to on occasions then come back and buy again is awesome. You know that you're doing a good job when that happens, but that can often, in my experience at least, be followed by some pretty crushing lows, some difficult times managing the business operationally, but also then there are days I've experienced, on end when I've not had sales come in during the early stages. Things are improving now, but there were days, weeks when I wouldn't receive a sale at all, and that's when you've got to double down and really sort of fine tune everything that you've got around you, whether that be your website, your photography. You've got to put in the work up front in order to get the rewards later down the line. That's my experience of things, at least. So if instant gratification is your thing, then this is going to be a challenge for you. Not to say that it's not possible, but it's about, in my experience at least, again, it's about putting in the work today, tonight, tomorrow. When you're not seeing the immediate results, you've got to put in the work now, in the belief that you're going to start seeing results further down the line, because that's what you need more than anything: an unwavering belief in your vision and the resilience to push on and keep working when all the odds seem stacked against you. There have been days, countless days, when I've thought about giving up, when I've questioned everything, but I've pushed on because of that unwavering commitment, that motivating force that we spoke about earlier in the video. That force, that motivation is stronger than any of the dark moments that I've experienced so far. It's enough for me to push on through the sacrifices, the doubt, the compromises, and the vulnerability of putting yourself out there in a position where you could fail. It's enough. So what is it for you? I wish that same belief for you. If you've made it this far in the video, then I know that you have the passion and the depth of thought to be able to make a success of your own clothing brand. So I wish you every success. Think long and hard about your own motivations and acquire new skills along the way where you need to. Be prepared for some extreme difficulties, but also know that those days are going to pass. Above all, be kind to yourself and have patience along the way, because it's likely to take longer than you think. Keep taking action every day, no matter how small. Keep moving forward. Make it happen. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to drop me a message below about your motivating force behind your own brand. And if you like this one, check out this video here where we delve a bit deeper into building a solid foundation for your brand. Cheers.